Wake up, Toronto. Happy Tuesday morning. Yesterday's broadcast was a bit postponed because of Diwali, the Festival of Lights, as I was also taking time off to enjoy the new year and celebrated it with my family and friends, which I'll get into a little bit later, but there is a lot to unpack in today's segment. And yes, the theme does revolve around Diwali. Let's first take a look at the current events for that day so we all can hope that we can do our best in taking care of the world where we call our home. By that I mean with climate change negatively impacting things like our weather, nature, food, and health, it's pretty evident that after billions of years, our planet is acting out. But of course, humans have been a huge part of it through greedy intentions of the money-hungry beings with huge corporations and using these big factories emitting pollutants into the air. We're definitely contributing members if our world in the near future reverses the existence of mankind, meaning we'll be extinct. And you're probably thinking, okay, we get it, Suzanna. Scientists and advocates like Leonardo DiCaprio have made the demise very clear. If we do not change to protect our planet, we're done so. But the reason I bring this up is our most trusted, Environmental Canada, released a statement. And here it is. It was a bit unprecedented. It was a warning that due to stagnant weather conditions, Diwali fireworks raised a risk of poor air quality. And climatologist David Phillips said that compared to last year's Diwali, there was a trend which found a spike in poor air quality because of large numbers of fireworks being used. And the reasoning was because air is warmer at the surface and the mix of sunshine plus light winds can cause poor air quality. Okay, totally understand that there's a scientific explanation behind this, and I think the intention was to educate, not bring down, but I guess it was done at the wrong time. And so not a lot of people with ethnic diversity took this news release lightly. In fact, Environmental Canada later on retracted that statement, and I can understand why that may be. Probably it wasn't a good time to put that information out and singling out people who are taking part in their Diwali traditions on that day. So, every national holiday and religious events, people dabble in fireworks to commemorate the occasion, and who doesn't love to stare in awe at a light show? I love looking at them, but Victoria Long Weekend or Canada Day and New Year's, etc. Why wasn't a statement released at that time? They could have easily, for it to matter to every single person, generalize that message and remind them in that way instead of on a religious holiday for some people. And think about it. It's also much hotter in the summer months, and probably statistically more people do fireworks during that time. So wouldn't the air quality be super worse? Anyways, glad that was kind of addressed and corrected. But since we are on the topic of fireworks, I gotta say, it's not a problem with people who are excited to buy these fireworks and set them off. I think my issue and biggest pet peeve is the aftermath that follows, which is the cleanup, when those people kind of leave their garbage and go away. And so there's litter at the side of the streets or the road, and it blows around while cars are trampling over it, and it's such a hot mess. And so sad to see people have to kind of tend to someone else's lazy mistake. So it's definitely frustrating, and I feel like I'm on a roll here, but there's also got to be a curfew for these fireworks, and even if it's implemented, it's not being practiced. People can be so inconsiderate, and I heard stories that in certain pockets of Toronto, fireworks go on past 2 a.m. Like, what? It's a weekday, folks. None of your neighbors who work or have an interesting, busy life that starts before the early mornings appreciate your selfishness. This is like a PSA out to you. Seriously, cut it out. A lot of people who live in Brampton are complaining that it's one of the loudest cities and notorious for getting wild. I'll believe it because lately, the stories that are emerging from that part of Toronto, I mean, at first you're skeptical, but then there's like so many facts that are related to it that you're just shocked and in denial, but that's the honest truth. I mean, think about it. During COVID, there was these huge parties being held with over 200 people. And then recently, I think this is also on Diwali, like in a parking lot, around 400 or 500 people were fighting. For what? It's just mind-boggling. I mean, if all of our cities were students in a classroom, Brampton would be the one visiting the principal's office multiple times a day, only to come back and do something worse than the last time. In other news, the municipal elections were held on Diwali as well, and it got mixed feelings. Some people who had to vote after work felt torn to go to the voting stations or be late or miss their rituals with their family and friends, while others had no issue. They saw it as options were available to either vote online or going to an advance poll. So equally, both, I think, have valid reasons. I mean, in the next few years, Diwali dates have already been determined. So if it impedes on future elections, perhaps making an exception for changing to a different date may help voters. How do you feel about this? If an election was held on a day of worship for you, would that affect your chances of voting? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. So I think we can navigate now to story time. So Diwali, as I know it for many years, I celebrated it with my family at home. We did prayers, decorated the house, made delicious sweets and foods that we wouldn't normally eat. It was like a specialty kind of a thing during these occasions. But the best part was, the jobs were evenly assigned. Everyone played a role, from cleaning to setting stuff up, and even like we had like someone who would DJ the music in the background. But overall, there was chaos, but in the most organized way possible. And this was my first year away from home as a married woman, and I felt withdrawals, a little bit anxious and sad. But, the picture also looked very different as it was just my husband and I. There was a lot of work that it entailed, and holy crap, I was exhausted from it all. Instead of having like a good core group of people helping you over a few days cleaning and preparing, it took my husband and I a little over a week and then some to get the entire house ready, from washing the prayer linens to mopping, doing groceries, all of it. I mean, it was a great learning experience for sure, and I surprised myself that I was able to mimic most of the traditional things, but I also owe it to my handy dandy checklist of things to do. Like, I jotted everything down, and might I add, it felt so good crossing stuff off once it was completed. But, it was a successful Diwali, and I can't wait until next year. But, practice makes perfect, and I'm sure my family would be more impressed, give me props for leading the religious events. And, I also got to visit them for a bit and enjoy some time with them. So it was still not a lonely Diwali, just a whole lot of work. Maybe I'll get used to it. Who knows? So that's a wrap, guys, for this week's episode, and I can't wait to chat with you next time. So have a fun weekend and tune in for our Halloween segment next Monday.